Hello, hello. Welcome to 5 Minute Mommy Moves. Let's go into Malasana and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But we'll go into the westernized version of it first. Um, so you're going to take your block if you have one or something to sit on and sit and rest your sit bones on that. Open your legs wide. So knees are the furthest they can be, flat heels. Bring your hands to prayer. And this is how you sit up. Long, tall spine. So this is what's taught in, the westernized version of yoga, I'm sure a class that you've been to. Now, Malasana is garland pose. And the full expression of uh, Malasana is like it looks like a garland. So we'd have flat feet and, heels would be flat on the earth, knees would be wide. We'd kind of hug ourselves, our legs to our chest, and we'd bend over and bring our head all the way to the mat. Everything would be grounded on the mat, feet, head. And so you look like a garland. And the only way to look at and see anything is inward. That's the only perspective you have at that point, is you're turned inward. And just like a garland is draped around your neck and encircles your heart, it's kind of bringing you to attention. And Malasana is really cool because even in India and some parts of Indonesia, you might find people like on the street in their Malasana squat, full of probably more something like this, but squatting instead of sitting, which is what we've done in America and, all these developed countries where we sit in chairs. And so we've taken the strength from our lower half because we're not using it that much. So in Malasana, this is a great stretch for toning and strengthening the lower half because you're literally using everything. So if you're not resting on the block and maybe you lift a little bit off that and you find you're stretching your work in your calves. I mean, you're stretching everything. Calves, thighs are working, hamstrings, quads, even your pelvis is working to keep you upright in this position. Now, you'll see people like cooking, eating, reading, waiting for the bus in India and Indonesia in a squat. That's how away from our own body's innate desire and natural inclination we've become by sitting in couches, and sitting all day at our desks. And that's why a stand-up desk is kind of the next step um, to returning to your body's natural knowing. I'll think of a better word, but it's its own knowing, right? How it wants to live and adjust to support you and stay strong in supporting you, and not any part of it get compromised by lack of working it, laziness. Hey, Alva, the Alva. And so anyway, it's just kind of some interesting tidbits. So let's come into Malasana together. Now, a way to get into it is from your sitting pose, Dandasana here, long legs. And let's just take a breath here. Tall spine as much as you can. Keep your spine long and erect. Gaze is forward. And I like to flex my feet. Gives me like that nice little back leg stretch. Pausing, hands on your thighs, and just be here. Feel kind of the muscles that want to ignite in your leg as you stay upright, as your lower half really supports you and your posture, your spine, in stacking one on top of the other, your vertebrae. And so that's pretty cool. So from here, one more breath. Bend one leg behind you. Actually, let's come to this pose. So bend one leg so the knees pointing up, and then the other one. And so you have both knees pointing up, thighs are parallel. You could take your hand and kind of push yourself off the floor. so that you're coming into your squat. Now heels, if they're not touching the floor like mine aren't, unless I kind of do this and bend forward, I can maintain the balance here. And actually this would be a nice thing to do because I really am working my whole leg from toe to hip. And so if you want to sit like this, use like something to support your heels. You can have a rolled up towel and you can sit on it like that. Okay, so that's one way, and you can wrap your hands. So however that feels good, or if you want to feel the activation in the feet, then, and you're okay and it feels okay on your ankles, to remove that blanket, go ahead. And so find your place and maybe even play with it. Find where you want to be, just like this. Okay, so I'm going to come off my heels, but sit in a breath or two where you've discovered you want to be. So take a breath in that, and then we'll move to the next. Yay! Thank you guys. Thanks for coming on. Love you too. So finding that stretch. Let's go into Malasana. Now you're going to widen your stance, so your feet are more hip width distance apart. You'll probably see that your heel is right beneath the edge of your hips, right? So you kind of have that steady base. Now I'm relaxing, I'm putting my weight onto my legs, but I am going to lift off so that everything's active instead of just kind of sitting, but want to get you in the position. So make sure that your knees feel good here. If they don't, just kind of fall a little bit more back and then bring your prayer pose sooner than later. Instead of waiting here and trying to figure out where you're going to be, lean back and use your counterbalance of your prayer hands. Okay. And then gaze is kind of naturally falling to the floor in front of you, maybe the top of your mat. Okay, so now let's get into a little bit more activation. Lift off, lift. So your upper half's going to lift off, resting on your hips, your thighs, your inner groin area, and then you're going to come into your prayer hands. So just feel what that feels like. So it's a nice stretch to the inner groin, the psoas. I'm getting a lot of inner thigh all the way to the knee. And then I feel my calf, my ankle stretching, my feet are working. And so let's come into supported Malasana. So find your block. So from here, this active Malasana, put your block under you, and then you can sit. And then from there, let's just kind of come into some awareness about what just happened. So we took probably 5 breaths in each of the postures we did. And if you replay it, you can just, cut out the prep and just go straight into it. But stretch your legs out long. So you're still on the block. Sit bones are on the block. If not, put 2 side by side. So your sit bones are on the block. And you can point or flex the toes in front of you and maintain a slight bend to the knees because you're going to fold over. Now fold over only as far as your hips are level with one another, in line with each other. If one starts to tip forward or whatever, stop. And then go back to where they were level. If you kind of found that, come back to where it's level and maintain the stretch there. Don't go any further. Okay, so long spine. We're on sit bones. We feel level hips. Inhale, tall spine. Exhale, fold over. Find that place. Keep your inner thighs glued together, okay? So the sit bones almost have a chance to just right themselves, and instead of inching forward, inching toward each other because of clenched, anxious butts and, like that kind of lifestyle, find the widest place that the sit bones can sit on that block. Okay, like I said, put 2 side by side if that really feels better, that you can actually open up the inside of that sacrum, or the sacrum, the inside of the pelvis. So now find that place where you can start to bend. So glue the inner thighs together, the knees together, the shins together, the calves together. we're not touching the shins. Let me retract that. Don't just energetically pull the whole leg to the other. Okay, so keep that straight. And then bend as far as you can so that you find the level, so you maintain the level hips, and then also you maintain, your breath. If it gets to be too much, then maybe just back off a little bit. And then also, I mean, with bent knees, you could go further than you kind of could with straight legs. So remember, a slight bend, but then even more so if it feels better to go a little bit further because, hey, my hips are still level. Hopefully the sound is good, guys. I got this lavalier. I pulled this out, but that's it. So exhale, inhale, rise, and you're done. Just kind of fall off slowly, one hip onto the ground, remove the block, and proceed about your day. Peace. Thanks for coming on live.